In 1957, Arthur Frommer, a young U.S. Army corporal, wrote a travel guide for American GIs. Since that time, Frommer's guides have traveled in the pockets and backpacks of keen bean globetrotters. Today, Frommer's publishes something like 350 guides filled with advice on deals and destinations and unique places to shop, eat, and have fun. It is my pleasure to welcome Jean Shannon, who is a Frommer's Guidebook editor, to Studio 4 to tell us more. Nice to meet you.
Nice to be here.
Now, everybody thinks your gig would be a very fine gig.
I get
having
that a lot.
To travel a lot.
It's true. More often, I send other people off to travel the world, and I get some really good stories back that way.
How did you get together with the Frommer people, and why?
Well, it's a great travel brand, and so I'd admired it for a long time. And I'd been working as a freelancer in Canada, doing some travel writing, and the opportunity came up where they were opening up a Canadian office, which is something that no other guidebook publisher has that way. And just by good fortune, it worked out for me that way.
And what's the difference between a Berlitz guide, a Lonely Planet, and a Frommer's guide, essentially?
I mean, there's a few things. I mean, one thing we really focus on is not only telling you where to go, but how to organize your time. We really have focused on putting a lot of itineraries in our books. So, you know, your travel time is so valuable. You don't want to be kind of running around, rushing around. So we really tell you not just where to go, but how to get there and what the order is to do.
Right.
And we also really try to cater to all budget levels.
And if you don't have a GPS or a Google map or something, there's a map in here.
Maps are a great thing.
A good old-fashioned map you can put in your pocket.
Never breaks down.
Never breaks down. So Vancouver and Victoria, 2011. How often do you update?
Well, the city guides like that, Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, we update every year. And then a lot of our other guides, it really depends on the destination, how dynamic the change is there. Usually about every other year we do.
Okay, and your litmus test when you come to Vancouver or to Victoria and you're in search of great place to eat, fine park, whale watching.
All of those things, yeah.
Right.
You know, we are really always pushing our writers to kind of find new things. I think people come to Vancouver, they, you know, obviously they want to see all the top places that they've heard about, and so we make sure we include all that. We always push our writers to be honest in their opinions, and if a place for some reason is overrated or doesn't measure up, you know, it's important that people know that. But that said, you know, really what we're trying to push people to do is get out and get them to places that they wouldn't necessarily know about. So we cover off all the main bases, but it's nice to push people into some experiences.
So if you're looking for a bed and breakfast, you can turn to B&B, and there are options, and price-wise, you can say, if you have a lot of money, you can stay here, and if you don't, if you're on a budget, you can stay here, and it's clean and there aren't bed bugs, we hope.
Exactly. Well, people have different budgets even within their own vacation. You know, you may be trying to stay at a place that's affordable, but you still might want to have a really nice dinner one night. So we try to include both of those. Exactly.
So you're based in Toronto.
Yep.
Didn't you write a Toronto day-by-day guide too?
Yeah, we have a Toronto day-by-day guide. We have one to Vancouver as well, and Montreal.
What does that mean, essentially?
The day-by-day guides, those are ones where we really focus on the itineraries. So they're 4-color guides, fit in your pocket, and we really organize around, here's 8 hours, here's how long to spend at each stop, the order to do it in. And we have it around different themes too. If you want to do a culinary tour of Vancouver, we have that here. If you want to tour the history of Montreal, here's a great tour if you're a history buff. So we really drill down a bit more and get into really what the interests are.
And it's tour by you, right? Tour by you with your guide, or you get a tour guide and go with the guide?
No. It's just we send our authors through, and they do set up all the tours for you, and then so they're easy to follow for anyone who picks up the guide. Okay.
And I know you've spent a lot of time in the Rockies and exploring the wilderness in Banff and other places across this land.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite outdoor experience, a river you've rafted, a mountain you've climbed?
Oh, God, you want me to narrow it down to one, do you?
I know you canoe. You must canoe.
I do canoe a lot, absolutely. I think one of the best places in Canada for me is Nahanni National Park, which is really spectacular. I think it's a place that Canadians aren't necessarily aware of, and it's really a jewel in the world. Most people don't know it was one of the first UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the world. It was one of the first ones ever named. And just a tremendous geology. You run through these cliffs that are 30, 40 kilometers long on your raft.
And how do you get to Nahanni from here?
You would fly up to Yellowknife, and then you take a flight for about an hour west from there. And there's lots of great tour providers there. It's a really historic.
Animals, trees.
Some animals, really just a tremendous scenery. The mountain ranges through there, spectacular. Virginia Falls, twice the height of Niagara.
Right.
Really spectacular.
Yeah. Have you ever rafted the Tatshenshini or been up to the Stikine or any of the wild rivers?
Dying to, but I haven't.
Have to go.
Have to
go see the Spirit Bear.
Yes.
The Princess Royal. I think that should be the next Frommer's experience for you, for sure. Lake O'Hara, in Alberta. It is Alberta.
Yep.
Got to be Alberta. I've been
it's
there.
Yoho, I think, isn't it? Yoho National
Yeah,
Park?
it's Yoho.
Yeah.
And it's but the Yoho they say is in BC. So, but I've been to Lake O'Hara and I lived in Jasper, so I'm assuming Alberta.
Yes.
It's so beautiful.
It's stunning.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Diehard hikers get misty-eyed at Lake O'Hara.
They really do. Yeah.
Trust me.
And it's one of our top recommended hikes. Takes a little bit of preparation because you have to book, and they only let a certain number of people on the trail every day. But if you do some advanced planning and book it a few months ahead of time, probably unparalleled in the country.
Right, but lots of good food too.
Yeah.
Unlike the olden days, but now they have snazzier lodges. Yeah. You're in the most remote places. Is that true? You're in the most remote places, and there you'll find a duvet.
Yeah.
And some foie gras.
And I think that's a way that sort of outdoor adventure is changing a little bit. You know, I was hiking the Alps last summer, and there they've really developed a culture of, you hike up the top of a mountain, and there's a great restaurant there, and you have an espresso.
Exactly.
Which is very civilized, and I think that's starting to permeate the scene here a little more. And Banff and Jasper are at the leading edge of that.
Sure. What do you see trend-wise in travel, the greening of travel?
Greening is definitely an issue. I think people really want to get more hands-on involved and experiential in what they do. You know, a lot of people are more seasoned and experienced travelers than they've been in the past. And so they want to get out and meet the local people. So we have a lot of, for example, people may want to go to a place and take a course on cooking while they're there and meet with some of the local people that way. We just did a really successful book on voluntourism, where you go to a destination and you volunteer there, work on a project, and you're often working alongside with the locals, and maybe combine that. Could be as short as a day, could go for several weeks, and you really get immersed into a place and feel like you've contributed to it.
Okay, so if you want to go on a voluntour, you want to be a volunteer. Places like Africa, places like Quebec?
Both, really. I mean, there's certainly lots of, I think that's what people think of the long-term stuff, where you go to Africa, you build housing, you build a well, that sort of thing, which is very valuable and great. But there are programs now. The Ritz-Carlton runs a program in a lot of their hotels.
The Ritz does?
The Ritz does.
Now that's good.
Yes, exactly. But you can go to any of their locations, or several of their locations, and they'll set up local programs. In Florida, for example, you can go and work and build on building habitat and working with nature that way.
How great.
Yeah.
Because you still have a little of the she, but you're also making a difference. Is that in the 500 places where you can make a difference?
That's
Is that
exactly
what that's
right.
about?
Exactly.
Okay, now you've also done a book on Poland.
Yes.
Why Poland?
Poland has a lot of history. And
I know,
a lot of, I think it's something that is one of the parts of Eastern Europe that Prague obviously got recognized first. And it's for good reason, beautiful city. Krakow, I think, is kind of the next follower to that. Stunning history, obviously a lot of it was preserved from the war.
Yeah, and the architecture.
The architecture is fantastic. And people are really interested in the history to that.
The culture, food.
Yeah, all of that. And, it's a more diverse place than I think a lot of people realize. Up on the north coast in the Baltic around Gdansk, they have beautiful seaside. In the south in Zakopane, there's great hiking in the mountains there as well. So there's a lot there.
Of all the places you've been, do you have some favorites at the top of your list? I know everybody's talking about bucket lists now.
Yeah.
I have to see the Taj Mahal
Yeah.
before I go. But what's on yours? Or where would you return is really a better, like always to Rome or always to Newfoundland or Labrador?
I don't know if I'm allowed to pick one, but...
Well, you don't have to pick one, but pick some, like favorite spots, people thinking about, vacation ideas.
Yeah, I think abroad, I think South America is underrated. Brazil, I think we're going to see a lot in the next few years. And they have a really unique, diverse culture. Rio is spectacular. But if you go up a little bit north of there, the beaches there are very very pristine, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and really Pacific, unlike anything else. And then closer to home, Newfoundland, I think, is something that, again, all Canadians should get there at least once.
What was magical about Newfoundland for you?
Oh, a couple things.
The rock.
The rock, yeah. I mean, everyone says about the people being friendly, and they say that about a lot of places. It's exceptionally true of Newfoundland. St. John's is super friendly, I think, because it's so compact. You know, you can get to a lot of different places, and people are very proud of their Newfoundland heritage. But you go across the country, or across the province, pardon me, Gros Morne is unique. And driving up the Northern Peninsula, going up to L'Anse-aux-Meadows, it's very remote, but you know, it's the first place where the Vikings landed. It's tremendous history there.
Well, in our own backyard, essentially. I know it's a ways away, but Nova Scotia, I spent some time in Wolfville and places like that, and they're really magical, and you think, my gosh.
It's just a different attitude towards life.
It's just here. Didn't have to cross the border, didn't have to do any of that. What about easy border crossing now? What do you carry in your wallet, being a travel guy? Do you have a Nexus card, any of the special cards?
I don't travel to the U.S. quite enough to have a Nexus card. I think if you do, then it's certainly recommended that way. I think I'd answer that question by saying I carry as little as possible. You know, certainly we recommend people, I think, want to be prepared when they go, and so the tendency is to overpack a little bit.
Sure.
But a lot of things you can buy in your destination, and what that will do is it will save you space so that you can probably carry less baggage, be less encumbered. If you can get away without having to check a bag, that really speeds up your life.
Most travel writers don't do that. Most travel writers I know, they know how to get through customs quickly, and they know what to pack and what not to pack, and there's new rules. Much change since Bin Laden was taken out, travel-wise?
Not in the last couple of weeks in terms of regulations, no. I think it's more, I mean, there are several common mistakes that come up for people. You know, people struggle around the rules around food, for example, what you can bring back and what you can't. A great rule of thumb on that we've learned is whether you can make a handprint on it or not. So jams or jellies are probably not going to get through a checked bag, but something that's a pie may just happen if you have to carry a pie wherever you're going.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
That's kind of, you know, you have to do your research, and different countries obviously are different.
For sure.
And that's the most important thing, but that is actually a pretty good rule of thumb.
Okay.
Sunscreen, as we were just talking about, is actually a place that people try to bring it through. There's very few travel size sunscreens you can buy. Much easier to just buy it in your destination.
Just buy it when you get there and leave it for the hotel.
It tends to blow up in your luggage if you pack it a little bit.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, it gets over your clothes.
Yeah. And that wine, it tends to do the same thing.
Yeah, wine is definitely the biggest one.
Right.
We recommend buying a wineskin is a great way to get it through. That way
good idea.
your wine is insulated.
Unless you're bringing a case, and then that's a bit of a a bit of a problem.
Then you have to share.
Then you have to share. So this Vancouver Victoria guide, what part do you play as an editor?
My role is really to push the authors into finding what's new. You know, we're really, obviously one of the hallmarks that we're trying to keep up is making sure everything is up to date and all the prices are as current as possible. Going back to places that have been around for a long time, you know, chefs change, management changes. You want to make sure people are accountable, that the standards are as they have been in the past.
Right. Well, I know food-wise, certainly at the top end, you've got Blue Water Cafe, one of the best, Chambar, one of the best.
Yeah.
Some of the top, Coast, the Everncell Group, all of that. In Victoria, do you have a favorite place in Victoria, a spot?
Oh, to eat?
To eat, to play?
Rebar is great.
Yes.
Rebar is a lot of fun.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
I know.
A lot of fun. We do a lot of.
And it's so healthy.
It's very healthy. We try to cook their cookbook at home, and it's great. Victoria, I love that it's just so close to the outdoors, and you can get out to some beaches that are all your own, and it's very spectacular.
It still feels a little bit like the country. Well, not really. It's also sophisticated. It's got a little bit of both, doesn't it?
It's come a long way
in
the last few years.
If you had to retire tomorrow, where would you retire?
I think I'd retire with a lot of Aeroplan points. But, you know, I think I love personally the interior of BC. I think that's a really spectacular region.
Oh, sure, wine country. And you have to go to the Sparkling Hill Resort. I've mentioned it too much, but I was there in Vernon.
Oh, really?
It's Europe. The Swarovskis own it.
Yeah.
It's Europe's come to Canada, really.
Really?
You better do that next time. Nice to see you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Frommer's Vancouver and Victoria 2011, and a free pocket map to boot.